sound is pretty like orchestral rock, in my opinion. And I know that's kind of a limited genre. You know, if the drums are going kind of crazy and you don't want to play organ, you could pull up these strings. And one of my favorite things to do with organ, strings, pads in general, is the one-note hold. With a lot of church songs, it works really easily and really well to just hold one note. If the song is in the key of D, you can get away with just holding a D up high while everybody else is playing through the chords and the drums are playing and everybody's singing, and there's usually nothing wrong with it. And you could throw an octave in there if you want and make it real easy on yourself. If you're doing that with the organ, you can do the same thing. And then, so you don't get bored, you can just play with the Leslie to give a little more interest. As you're holding for a long time, you can add some things in to make it sound a little bigger. And without a band, it sounds pretty boring. But it does work, I assure you.
So that's better than just like playing the chords with the beat? Like sometimes you just want to hold instead of play the chords? Okay.
Yeah, sometimes. That decision-making process is pretty arbitrary, though.
Yeah.
If you want to play the chords, there's nothing wrong with playing the chords. But if you want to change it up and do something a little different, you can just play one note, which is kind of funny that that's different.
Talk about how you decide, or would you talk about how you decide to do that, like in the context of what other people are playing in the band?
So a lot of like church bands that I've played in have 2, sometimes 3 guitarists, and they're all playing chords. And sometimes it's like, I don't need to play the chords because everybody else is, so I'll just stick on the one note. Or I might play through the chords with just like an octave whole note melody. Like if the chords are like D, A, G, I might go without the chords though, just as everybody else is playing.
Yeah.
You know, something like that, because it's just not necessary for me to play the chords.
Right.
I once played at a church that had 4 guitarists, and there was one song I remember I just didn't play because like it just wasn't. And 3 of them were acoustic.
Okay.
That was a mess musically. I mean, the service was all good and fine, but I was just sitting in the back going, "This is not necessary." On the same token, same note, same thing, you can also hold one note and just kind of walk another note down and just kind of do things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes when I do this though, I feel like it looks like I'm not doing much, which is true, and I feel a small obligation to do something with my left hand. And so that's when I will actually use the button instead of the pedal, and I'll have the left hand over here, and I will. That is legit.
Nice.
And I might pull down a little drawbar, so it looks like I'm doing more than I actually am. Because, you know, doing this for a minute makes people think, hey, why is he even up there? But it adds. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. But can you find the organ
When you take a
sound?
book and you just put it on its spine and walk away, I think that's when people really start to...
You know, I toured with a reggae group, and I had to trigger a sample from my computer, and I had it mapped to the low key on the keyboard. And it was like a 10-minute sample. It was the show intro. Like, it was like this building thing before we came out onto the stage. And so I came out 10 minutes before the show, and I had a small brass bear that I set on the key, and I walked away. And then we played the first song over that sample that kept going. So he was just sitting there the whole time while I was playing. And at the end of the song, I pull him off and put him. But there are stories of organ players that'll do that with like small like fishing weights or something. You just put it on the key and then you do other stuff. There's a video of Billy Preston who plays this awesome organ thing. He gets on the high note, puts a weight on the high note, gets up, takes his bow like away from the organ, comes back, takes it off, and finishes the song.
Oh my
It's
God.
like, what? It's really cool. It's on YouTube. I don't remember what song it is, but I'm sure you can find it if you watch it. But that's, yeah, one note. There's nothing wrong with 1 or 2 notes. You don't have to feel obligated to play chords the whole time, especially with organ, because organ, at least in Nord keyboards, I'm not sure like if the Phantom does it, but there's, I forget the term now. Organs have, part of the technology from the 50s and 60s and 70s is the more notes you play, the volume actually goes down. Like there's power being robbed from each key the more key you press. So like you might be able to hear it. As I press more keys, it'll get quieter.
The
You can hear that.
volume stays the same, right?
Right, it kind of
just-
self-compresses.
yeah, okay.
So like with organ, sometimes it's better to just play one or two notes, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you pay attention to certain songs, you'll hear it happen all the time. It's a very common organ trick. The other organ trick is glissandos, where you just mash the keys and go up to a chord or one note, and that's people love that.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful.
I was watching a full-on organ player. He brought his own Leslie and all that kind of stuff, and he would crank the drive, play his note, and he would do this as a way to get more drive out of it because you almost couldn't hear it. It was so low. He'd just be mashing down here.
Oh yeah.
Just to get more drive out of the Leslie.
Oh yeah. That's a lot of fun to do. You just kind of, and you can, you know, it helps when there's a band going with you. But
Quite as awkward.
but it's a lot of fun, and usually I would have the Leslie on. It's hard to tell the difference because the low rotor takes a long time to speed up and a long time to slow down. So you know if you let it speed up, because Leslies have two speakers that are spinning, one on the top, one on the bottom. The bottom speaker does the low frequencies and it spins slower and takes a long time to speed up. So you know if you let it go for a long time, you'll hear the change eventually. But having the Leslie on gives it a little more grit kind of going into whatever you're leading up to, and that's great for like you know if the song has like a drum break where everybody stops playing or something, you know the last measure before you come back in or a couple beats, you just get one of those and it helps kind of build into whatever chorus you're going to play next. Organ tricks, I love organ tricks. Any other organ questions?
Well, for like a fast-paced song,
Yeah.
would you probably recommend either organ or like what was the other one? Rhodes or something like that?
Yeah, I'm a little biased towards organ, and in my opinion, organ can work on every single song in the world ever.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as too much organ. That's my default. If I'm not sure what to play on a song, I was like, I don't know, I'll just go with organ.
But do you know you're playing this Sunday?
I'm not.
Awesome.
I'm not.
Sound
I'm in
science.
Chicago.
Oh, that's right.
You-
One thing, what did we do Sunday? What did you do last Sunday?
Easter.
Yeah. It's an upbeat song we did last Sunday.
Only King Forever was a song that we did that was somewhat
Yeah.
of a faster
That was
song.
new to me, so I don't remember
I have a couple.
Or that Glory Is Yours song, but that's not. We didn't do a ton of like fast, like.
that song. Yeah. So I can't remember songs to say now. Do you remember any songs we did? Remember any fast songs we did?
Yeah, this is a good
Oh, this is a
example.
good-
though, 'cause,
this is a
like,
good
if
organ
you have a
one,
guitar
yeah.
lead line,
Yeah,
and pretend you only have one electric guitar.
only one.
Pretend you only have one.
So you can hear that little kind of a pad down in the middle, and it sounds like it's organ to me. It's hard to
Sounds
tell
like an organ.
from here. And organ is very versatile, so you could just start with the organ, and when it comes in rocking, you can. I'll show
Just
you.
the one.
I like that this video has the tabs on it.
It's so funny.
It's funny. So, yeah, it sounds to me like the organ player on the recording, or the keyboardist on the recording, is just, you know, doing kind of a real simple, just kind of low pad on the organ, which is great. And then, you know, if you're holding that one chord for a long time, play with the Leslie. I've literally done that.
What I find interesting, like in our rehearsals, a lot of times I'm guilty of this. Probably everyone in the band, in any band at one point, is guilty of like you listen to this song and you hear like the acoustic just doing like a
Yeah.
and then like space.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about space and something to be said about like actually thinking about how you fit into a song.
Oh, yes.
Versus just like, I'm going to play through the chords.
Right.
Or I'm going to play through the chords, which is what we do all the
Right,
time, especially worship leaders. We're the worst. We don't know what to do with our hands unless we're moving. So, I mean, that's something that I want to work on, and I want us as a band to really be thinking about. So
Yeah.
any, like, as you progress through the rest of this, if there's any, like, little, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, as far as, like, how I fit into a mix. And,
Yeah, a lot of the times I have to remind myself to listen to everything that's going on because, you know, there's 2 guitar players and a bass player and drums and 6 singers or whatever you've got. You know, I have to remind myself each song at some point to go, oh yeah, what is happening? What is everybody else doing? And yeah, sometimes I just stop playing, but it's awkward to just stand up here and not play. I'll admit to that. And I'll also admit to having done this. That is
that a couple times too.
100% true.
Yep.
Just turn the volume down or turn off the sound and just
Make it
kind of
look like you're
pretend.
doing something.
Yeah, because you know, with a whole band, you don't need to play all the time, and there's nothing wrong with not playing all the time. It just looks a little awkward and feels awkward when you're just standing up here doing nothing. If you're singing, you know, maybe you can get away with, you know, not having your hands on the keyboard, but
And even like finding, like if you got a bunch of like 2 lead and a rhythm guitar and they're both playing something up higher, like
Right.
understanding that if I also play something up higher,
gonna be a
then now you've got
Yeah.
3 people saying it.
trying to
playing the same
find
thing.
the harmonic gaps in what's not covered. Yes, that is also great, and I love it when the guitar players actually communicate as to what they're doing. You know, when you look over and you see one guy up here and one guy down here, it's like, okay, you guys are working this out together. And yeah, I'll try and find things. A lot of the times I find the high end is wide open unless it's a guitar solo. So like, you know, you can back the organ off and just kind of, you can even do like a nice high pad, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if nobody else is living in this range, you know, you can make it your own.
Okay.
Or you can even do the same thing on a piano. You know, you can do like a little arpeggio. I mean, whatever the chords are. Just to add a little something else in somewhere that's not already claimed amongst the rest of the band.
Can you talk about when to do moving kind of things, arpeggios versus staying on a chord or playing
Yeah,
a downbeat?
I try and base my decisions off of what everybody else is doing. If everybody else is kind of static, I'll try and do something a little more active.
yeah, movement.
If the guitar player is just holding one note and just kind of milking it, as guitar players do sometimes, electrics, not acoustics. You know,
you kinda move.
I'll
Okay.
create a little more motion. I try to balance with whatever they're doing. I almost said contrast, but that sounds adversarial. We're in this together. We're making music as a team. And
Sometimes for me too, it's like I'll throw in like some of those, like maybe depending on how the song builds as well.
Oh,
And what
absolutely.
they're doing, So
absolutely, you know, when the guitar players start doing eighth notes and start building up, you know, if it's building to some chorus or something, then yeah, I might start doing like eighth notes in the left hand, and I might do like an octave. You know, I don't know what song is in my head, but you know, the simple things like that. You know, if they're just hanging on one chord, I try and give some motion. Octaves bring things out more, makes it cut through a little bit. Yeah, most of it is just listening to what everybody else is doing. And if sometimes the inspiration hits and sometimes a melody comes into my head, then it's like, oh, that would sound nice, and I try and find it and play it. You know, I might discreetly find it down here. Okay, yeah. You know, but yeah, I just try and balance with everything else that's happening in the range that I'm playing and the kind of activity and the harmonic motion and yeah. Other questions? What were we talking about? Examples? So on this one, if I was on that organ, you know, during the verses, I was just kind of just gentle patting when it gets low. You know, as it builds into like a bigger chorus, you know, that's when I would kick on the Leslie and get up a little higher so it cuts through, and probably leave the Leslie on. Since this is mapped to the pedal to where if you hold it, it stays on, and let go, it comes off, you can just press the button to let it stay on if you want to keep it on for a long time and not have to hold the pedal down. And then just kind of live up here.
So with all the guys hammering away on quarters and eighths, do you tend to do more? Do you go with them, or do you tend to stay?
Depending on the song. More often, I would stay and just kind of smooth everything out a little bit, because guitars are much more, much better suited to just do like the eighth note chunking. You know, the organ is not so much. If I was gonna do it, I would still probably hold one note up top and, you know, if it's really like, if it really seems appropriate to do the eighth note thing. But I like to have something kind of connecting it all together. And that's, you know, personal preference, but it just, to me, it sounds better than, you know, it's just, because the organ doesn't sustain once you let off. If I was playing piano, I might do that, you know, I might, with the sustain pedal, but with the organ, yeah, I would probably hold a note while doing that, and going through the chords or whatever. What's that song that it comes in on the second eighth note of the measure? Yes, that one. So you can hear that the guitarist is holding a note through over that. And when I play this song, I'll do that. Was that it? Anyway, you know, I would hold that note through all that. You know, that's how I would play that part. Unless a guitarist was holding that note up high, then I wouldn't worry about it, and I would just do that. But I like doing that on that song. That's particularly fun because that little window is open and screams, "Do something." That's a good organ song. I like playing organ on that one. And then as you're holding that note forever and ever, you know, I would be playing with this while doing all that. You know, mostly that just ends up as a little game for me to entertain myself. And I find myself doing that a lot when I play in churches, is entertaining myself. And I know that's not what my goal should be, but you know, it happens. You know, we're playing like a simple song. It's just like 1 and 4. I try and come up with games to entertain myself and satisfy my musical needs. But I know that's not really the purpose.
Is, so.
It gets old sometimes. If I wrote worship songs, nobody would like them because they would be way too complicated. Unless you're playing like Israel Houghton, then I don't need to do anything on those. I just need to keep up.
Yeah.
Those songs, great.
Does everyone feel like they have a good understanding of like each of the instruments and kind of a general understanding of like how to get the sounds?
What do you mean by that?
Because I'm thinking like, okay, context. Me or Stalker or anyone else that's leading says like, hey, I need this in here, and then just kind of the understanding, the wherewithal enough with this instrument to say, okay, you want something like, you want a pad, but you want it to sound a little bit more warm and not as much like of a bell sound, or like, just like kind of understanding each of the organ, the piano, the synth, and the effects to kind of know how to get different sounds out of it.
Well, I wouldn't know how to like mess with any of the preset ones you guys have done. That's for sure.
Well,
We can talk
hopefully
about that a little bit.
Hopefully, the preset ones are ones that don't have to be messed with as much.
Right, they've been kind of crafted in a way to where you don't need to do much to that.
Yeah.
But the goal being like, that's like a base for us. So like my hope would be that this is a way of like opening up a new world of like figuring out how to make sounds that you like and that you feel like fit that song. And probably you're going to start from one of these places,
Right.
but kind of understanding maybe how the effects work, and so if you don't mind maybe going through like
The effects section?
yeah, like
Yeah,
if I turn an effects on, it's I'm on the piano, not the organ. So
Right.
if I'm wanting to do some of the organ, then I have to change it, like that type of thing.
Yeah,
How you
let's
make
go
it
through the effects. I'm just going to turn everything off. So we've just got piano. No split. Okay.
I'm good.
Oh, that's how you do the split.
Yeah, this is the split controls are right here, and you can split it into 2 zones, which is 1 zone, or 3 zones. There's 1, 2, 3, and these 3 lights under each section correspond to
Those zones.
which zone you're going to play in. So if you tap this button twice, it'll toggle to the next setting. So now it's just the low section. Again, now it's just the bottom 2 sections. And now it's just the middle. Top 2.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's how you can kind of navigate what you want
And
where.
these are the section breaks?
Yes. And to move these around, you hold Shift while pressing keyboard zone 2 or 3, moving the second or the third light. So if you want, and it just toggles through as you press it.
So anything that's underneath the button, shift controls?
Yes.
Right?
Shift gets you whatever is underneath any of the buttons on here. That's so if you see a button that you want to press and you want to do what's under it, you hold Shift and then press the button. So set low split and set high split are what's under these. So set the high split, you can move it and it'll just toggle through the ones above this guy.
Okay.
So so that's the splits, and if you want to just turn it off, you just press them. So effects. This basic piano. Here are the 3 available effects to add
Do you
to
want
it.
to come around?
Okay, yeah.
I move this stuff out.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I'm good. Staying close.
Okay.
So there's 3 effects maximum that you can have on the keyboard. The right one is delay, and that's the only option in the right one. You press the bottom button and it turns on. And these are the knobs that affect the effect. So the rate. Turn this up. How fast the delay goes.
yeah.
And the amount is the mix between the delay and the piano. So if we have it all the way down, there's no delay. If we turn it to the middle, it's equal parts delay and initial. And all the way delay is delay only. And then the rate is how quickly it affects. And this is the amount of delay, how many times it's going to repeat. So if you turn it all the way up, it just goes on forever.
Nice. That's nice.
And then you can play with this. And we'll get rid of it. So if you turn to 2, But anyway,
It's an emotional number. Actual.
so that's the delay effect. This effect, you have 6 options: chorus 1, chorus 2, phaser 1, phaser 2, flanger, and vibe. You toggle through those with this button. Easy. And then you affect those with the same 2 knobs. If you have multiple effects, this button will toggle which effect you are affecting.
Focus.
Yes, the focus. So keep that in mind so that if you want to add more delay, you don't do this and add more phaser and go, why isn't there more delay? Because it's on effect 2. And the effect 1 slot works the same way as effect 2. You toggle through the wahs, ring mod, drum, and
Yeah,
auto
would
pan.
you give us an overview of
Absolutely.
what kind of feels those?
We'll start here with the flanger. That's just how it sounds. I can't really describe to you what's actually happening
Okay.
sonically.
Yeah,
Some weird
it's a
distortion.
yeah, distortion. Yeah. I hear
And
the vibe. It's like a wow, wow.
Yeah, and all of these are kind of similar in
Similar?
that
Okay.
respect.
But that's softer. I feel like
Right.
gentler. Okay.
It's more of the
More
softer.
chorus, more soft.
Yeah.
More of a soft.
Phaser's a
Phase. I
little
hear the
alien.
waves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can hear the fade. It's like really wow. Again.
And back to the flanger.
Okay.
And you know, if you wanna, you can add a ton of it, or just have a little bit. You know, so if you find one that you kind of like, you can mess with it to dial it in, and then the rate is
Yeah.
obvious. Now these ones are a little bit different. The ring modulator is when things get crazy. And if you turn it all the way up, it gets, you know, if you're doing a little more crazy EDM dance music type
Do that a
worship,
lot, actually.
I would imagine that's the only time I ever
Only choose an answer.
when it's really getting silly. That's the silly button.
Can you turn it up a bit and play?
Yeah. Actually, you probably wouldn't, if you're doing that, you wouldn't have it all the way cranked.
It sounds like a bad Skype connection. That's awesome.
And then wah wah. That one requires a pedal, which we don't have. But you can still
Actually, we
Different
do.
kind of pedal?
An expression pedal or what
an
kind of
expression pedal. Yes, sorry.
No, dude, you don't need to. You don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to. Expression pedal would simply move this knob.
Without having to move it up.
Right. And then a lot of times you would do it kind of like quickly if you're
Yeah.
doing like funky stuff.
If we're doing Herbie Hancock or something like that.
Right. Or some Bill Withers or something. Yeah. Auto wah doesn't require the pedal. It'll take care of that for you.
Like the harder you hit, the more it opens.
Yes. Auto wah 2 is slightly different. And if you hit it soft, it just doesn't do a whole lot.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So to just give
This thing
some
is real
context,
I
because
know.
I'm going to try to take what you're saying and kind of say that how does this apply? Like you might
don't
hear
do
that and
that.
say, I'm never going
never
to
gonna
play
use
that.
that.
Right.
You know,
Sounds-
in church, you're probably not going to.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I want you to have is just enough knowledge to like be creative, start
Yeah.
finding sounds,
Yeah.
and then hide some of those sounds underneath something else to give it
Yeah.
a lift or
Yeah.
to make it interesting.
Yeah.
So
Is there reverb? I use reverb quite a bit.
yeah, the reverb is this guy right here, and it's pretty much always on by default.
Okay.
You can turn it off, but
Yeah. It just sounds.
just a little bit. And you know, if you want to add more, you just mess with this knob, and there's different types there. I don't do a whole lot with it. The default is pretty okay with me. And there's also compressor if you want to compress things. It'll light up when it activates.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Talk about what a compressor is.
It's taking all the dynamic fluctuation, the dynamic room that you have, and squishing it to where you don't have that room. So, you know, if you crank the compression all the way to max, whereas if I play the same thing without it, you know, it's taking all of your quiets and making them louder, and taking all of your louds and keeping them there, I guess. It squishes upwards.
Okay.
So your softs, you know, and I'm playing very softly, but it's kind of loud and a little aggressive. I don't use it much. If you wanted to get some more bite out of what you're doing, you know, if you're playing piano and it's rock and roll kind of, you can, as opposed to,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
it creates a little more edge.
It does.
I don't use it that often, just because I don't like the quality of the sound. If I want more bite, I would add some amp simulation, which brings us to the last slot of effects, this one. These 5 knobs in this button belong to the amp simulator and equalizer. This is where you have control over your treble, mid, and bass. So if you want to crank the bass on your piano, or the treble, you know, and you can play with that. I don't use the equalizer much on the piano and the organ or the Rhodes, but when you get into synth stuff, like with the pads, I might do that. Where's the pad? There's the pad.
Here you do.
You know, if I wanted to, I might brighten this up a little bit. If I wanted some more high end coming out or something. Or if it had too much, I might bring it down. Or if I wanted a little more body, I might add some more bass.
That right there is why a sound person has so much influence. I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
That like just opened my eyes.
So there's your opportunity to play with that. Let's get back to just piano. If you move these knobs, they will do things. If you don't touch them when you know, after you turn it on, if you don't do anything, it's not gonna, you know, if it's already set like that, when you turn it on, it's not gonna mess with the sounds. You don't have to worry about keeping it all at
It's not like the wheel.
right.
So it's already been preset.
It won't
for
catch
you.
until you start moving.
It won't catch until you start moving it.
Okay,
That's the way to
gotcha.
say it.
Gotcha.
Then this is your frequency of your mid EQ, which might not be necessary, but if you want to crank the mid EQ, you can hear as I move this one. So I'm adding a whole lot more of a low frequency right now, and as I bring it up, it's a higher frequency
Yeah.
that I'm adding more of.
Ah,
Make sense?
yeah.
Good.
When do you use those?
Hardly ever.
Okay. Just let it.
Most of the time, the only time I ever use it is if I hear my piano coming out of those speakers and I go, I don't like how that sounds.
Yeah.
I might,
You
oh,
might
that's
play
too
with
much
it.
high end. I might back off a little on
Okay.
here. But then I sometimes don't want to because I feel like that's the sound guy's responsibility.
Yeah. Okay.
But then if he's not doing it, I don't know if I should or if he's going to notice it and he's going to do it, or I don't know. Yeah, but that's the only time I ever really do that. And then the last part of this is the drive, which is just adding a little, I'm going to turn that back flat. If you want to sound like a guitarist.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, 2 and 3 is a decent amount on there. On the Rhodes, it works really, really good. Oh, it's already on. Oh, there. Get rid of those effects. So this is clean. It gives a little distortion to it. And then the amp simulation. There's 3 different available amp simulation effects. There's a small amp, a JC amp, and a twin amp, which are all guitar amps. The only time I ever use those is through a Rhodes, or putting a Rhodes through it, which we'll get rid of the drive. And so here's regular. It just changes the sound a little bit.
Makes the speaker sound smaller.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
The one I use most often is twin, and it gives it a little more life. Makes it sound like it's a real Rhodes coming through a real speaker instead of a Nord coming through a PA, which isn't bad, but yeah. Yeah, the one I use most often is twin, and I might put a little bit of drive, but that's the effects section. Those are your capabilities of affecting these sounds over here. The external section, you don't really need to worry about because that's when you're hooking this up to a second keyboard through MIDI and doing things. I never ever use it, but it's there if you want to explore those capabilities and bring in a second keyboard and do things. You know, we should look at these other sections too quickly. The piano section, here's your octave shift if you want to move octaves. You don't generally need to do that on the piano. And here's your different sounds for the piano section. And there's different sounds within those. So electric piano 1, there's 6 different ones. And so they all sound a little different.
So hard to make your decision.
I know.
Right.
Seriously.
There's 1 through 5.
I like them all.
I know,
Yeah.
there's too many.
And they're, you know, it's kind of up to you to kind of figure out which ones you like. Like I think I liked 5, kind of like a bell tone. Yeah, you know, if I was playing a Rhodes and I wanted a little more attack, I might switch to 5.
If you're playing some sort of 80s, like
Or
90s type of.
yeah, so those are just, they all sound really similar, but you know, they'll have the characteristics. So that's kind of up to you to find the ones that you like. Electric piano 2 is just one Wurlitzer, which is kind of like a Rhodes, but instead of metal tines inside the keyboard that are struck by a hammer, they're wooden. What are they called? Reeds?
More like blocks in that sense, right? There's no air on them.
No, I don't remember what they're called, but it's wood instead of metal. So it's a little softer. It doesn't sustain as long, but yeah, it's a good substitute for a Rhodes. I like it. Oh, we didn't really talk about the rest of these effects. Auto pan is panning left and right.
You stereo? Like legit stereo?
Tremolo is volume fluctuation. Tremolo is a very common one to have on a Wurlitzer.
I've heard that before. Don't you feel like some movies are like, I think I've
Yeah.
heard that before?
Oh, yeah. So that's the Wurlitzer. Oh, what am I doing? Clavinet, I'm sure you've heard. Those are strings. Most often, clavinet is played right here. Up here doesn't. But that's a clavinet. You can put a little wah on there. That's the clavinet, and there's several different models of clavinet in here, A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
And then you have even more options with which pickups you want to use on the clavinet, and many different.
How would you explain that?
They're like pickups on a guitar. You know, kind of how those work.
Pickups on a guitar.
They're
like you're
they're these
playing
little,
clavinet.
these little things. I mean, it's the equivalent of like a microphone.
Okay.
That's really close to the string in the clavinet when it gets hit. That, you know, that's
So
what
you
picks
get
up the sound.
Actual.
Right. And there's, I think, 4 different pickups inside the clavinet at different locations. So
Okay.
they pick up different qualities of the string being hit.
So this
Okay.
is
Is
only
it
for the
kinda like-
clavinet?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it kind of like when you hear when a bass player, when you hear the string being pulled on the bass, when it, like, no, or when it's like
Well, it's
slapped?
equivalent of like plucking the bass at different points along the string.
Oh, okay.
Sort
okay.
of. So. You know, it's just the sound just.
That, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's not huge differences.
If I was singing on a mic up here, and then there was a mic 3 feet away, and then there was a mic 5 feet away, and then 20 feet away,
Oh, like what it
And I
would
was still
pick up in
singing.
your voice.
Okay.
that is a weird way of saying.
So like
Yeah,
farther
yeah.
away would lose all the bass, right? You just get this like more tinny sound and some of those kinds
But
of
it'd
things.
still pick up your voice.
And it's not hypercritical. This is not something you're probably ever going to use.
When you're out there playing your one note on the organ,
Yeah.
then go back and play with
Definitely make
this stuff.
sure you do that.
What you've learned from Ryan is that just fake playing.
Fake play. Turn the volume all the
Turn
way
the
down.
volume down.
And just
mess with
And put a little like weight over here and
Yeah.
walk away.
Find a
That's it.
bear.
Done.
the harpsichord's a really important one though.
yes, the harpsichord.
How many of those are
Just
there?
just to be like, you should
Three.
Bach.
Oh, I don't know any Bach.
No, I don't even, not anymore. It was an invention, wasn't it? Like,
Right.
No, that doesn't work. There's 3 different harpsichords if you want to play harpsichord for anything. Grand piano.
Use that.
Yeah.
In the same way that you can't have too much organ, you can have
You
too
can
much
only have
harpsichord.
too much harpsichord. So there's a few different pianos.
and it's telling you on that little screen.
Yes, the model of the piano
Yeah.
does show up here. So there's a Bosendorfer, a Steinway D, and a Yamaha C7,
Whoa.
and a CP80 electric grand.
Fancy.
All for one price. Of,
Right? All for the price of like 10% of one of those.
I might send it back 2 or 3 times.
And then there's upright pianos, which I love the upright piano sound.
oh, that's
That's the
pretty.
best upright.
That is a beautiful.
and why do you love that?
It's just got so much character. It sounds like a real instrument.
When do you use the F upright?
Yeah, when
In
do you
church-
just use like the piano sound? Because that's like my favorite. Because I'm just used to playing like a regular piano.
There's nothing wrong with using a piano sound, and you can absolutely just
So I think what he's saying too is you can come back in while, if you're on this first one, wheel down,
Yeah.
start messing with these, and
You know,
you get to play with them.
I sometimes have to play at churches where the set is very piano heavy. Like, they send out a bunch of songs and they're all piano songs. It's like, okay, rather than using the same piano the whole set, I might switch to an upright then. Or just when, if I feel that it's more suitable. Like,
Or it's a hipster song, kind of?
yeah, if it's a hipster song, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then EQ it kind of badly and yeah. I don't find myself using the and the accordion sound. No, I don't find myself using the upright that often in church. I'll use it like on country songs or like it's perfect for that one.
Favorite. Or
It's a good song. I love the upright sounds. They sound.
Christmas time is here.
Christmas time is here.
Oh, I love that song.
Oh no, not that one.
I miss Christmas.
I love Christmas.
That's like one of the best Christmas.
It's coming back. Don't worry.
Every year.
It'll be around again soon.
You're sitting down.
Wait it out.
And then we talked about the organ section. Oh, this guy.
Yeah, well, I've wondered.
This is the pitch stick.
Like,
Most
Vibrato.
keyboards have like a wheel that you push up
Yeah.
and down like this. They have two of these.
Yeah.
This just has this because it's really easy to control the pitch like this. You'll see on these sections there's a P stick light, which sounds funny.
Because it is.
It's a pregnancy test.
Because it is.
So if you hold shift and press the button above it, it'll turn on or off the P stick, the sustain pedal, or both.
If you hold the shift button.
Yeah, with the
Okay.
shift button because it's under the button.
So is this the P stick?
Yes.
Okay.
So
oh, it's the bend of the
It's
tone.
the bend.
But you have to be.
uses that a lot.
oh yes.
You have to be pushing. I mean, like the.
Yeah.
You
Right.
would just be able to play with like one hand and do that. Okay.
Yes.
And
And
it snaps back.
yeah,
Right,
and
right
yeah,
on.
it
Right.
returns to its original
Okay.
position. But if you wanna,
Yeah.
you can. I would only ever really use that on synth things, and probably not in church. But it's there.
As well as any other song.
Ever.
Yeah. If you ever want to assign a control to any of the morphable things, which is the wheel, aftertouch, or control pedal,
Skip mode.
Can you show them what?
yes,
Aftertouch is?
yes. I'm going to map this volume to aftertouch, just a little bit. And so what that means is now when I play the upright, you don't hear any pad until I push.
Oh, wow. That's what A touch means?
Yes,
My mind.
aftertouch. Yes.
After touch, okay.
My mind just exploded.
How hard do you have to
When
push?
he's after touching, you see the volume. When you
Come try. You don't. It's not that hard.
So nice.
Yeah. And so if you want more, you double tap that, and when it's flashing, that's when you have controls to modify. So you can crank that, and crank all these things, and this guy, and you can have a lot of things happen.
With aftertouch.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. I don't use that other than, if I want to add a little more volume by digging in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had this like this, and so now. That's really the only time I ever
And
use
what
the
is this one?
aftertouch. That's the control pedal. That would be an expression pedal,
Okay, gotcha.
gas pedal that you have over here.
Is that one that like
Yeah.
a volume pedal?
Yeah.
On a guitar. Yeah. Okay. As opposed to what?
And it's the exact same thing. You double tap it.
Oh,
you
double
know.
tap it.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Double tap and then tweak whatever you want that to control, and then press it again to stop. So
Can
the
you even
wheel.
do, like drawbars?
Yes. So you can do that with the pedal. Yeah.
No, I mean with the after.
Yeah. With anything. So aftertouch, pull all these out. Great.
Oh, that's cool.
And you can just get a little.
I can't believe how smart these keys are. That's insane.
I understand. Like this is my mind.
Yes.
Exploding.
It's a lot of fun. Or you could even speed up the rate of the delay. Or you know what? Let's slow the delay down.
Like a dotted eight. Two separate.
Too hard to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can mess with the effects and everything too.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Why don't we have one of these at Wash Park?
Yeah, why not?
Yes.
Why
And
didn't
we'll
we
probably
get
do a
more?
clinic on the other one.
Okay. Yeah, because this
Okay.
isn't gonna help me.
Right.
Now I know all
this
this
is kind of a
little
lot.
stuff.
It will help you, cause like hopefully you're also hearing kind of like approach to it. And,
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I totally.
the-
have
It's like how can I do? I mean, a lot of the stuff you can do on the Phantom.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So it's like okay,
It's just
how can
different
I do
ways
this
to-
on the
Yeah.
Phantom?
Yeah.
And then that's when
And
you
the
also should come to
the thing that I love about the Nord keyboards is how accessible everything is. All the effects and all the knobs are right in front of you. You don't have to dig through menus.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward
Menus are
once
hard.
you know what.
Yeah, it's just a matter of
are.
kind of orienting yourself with
I feel like
everything.
it's very logical when you like push this button, like oh,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, they laid it out very well in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I have a question. For me,
Mm-hmm.
may not be for everyone, but for me, I learn best when I've heard something and then I get a chance to like have someone tell me to do it, and then I do it.
Yep.
Would
All right,
that
Chad,
help?
do what I just did.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Would it help for each of us to take like a turn and have Ryan say,
Yeah.
"Hey, do this, do this, do this"?
That'd probably be good. You
to
go
kind of
first.
send it over to
Yeah,
you?
I thank you.
I will, but I grew up goofing around with keyboards like this, so I.
All right,
I'd
Chad.
love for you to.
You don't need to do it. Is what you're saying.
I'd love for you to.
I'm just kidding. I'm not a piano player, so I'm not gonna
Well, yeah, I
go.
just feel like I won't remember.
I can play. I can play one
All right,
song.
Chad.
Let's try this first.
Pull up the Rhodes and put it through a twin
gonna
amp.
That's a good idea. Put it through a what?
A twin amp. Okay. Yeah. Good job.
A+.
That's good. I remembered right
Now,
I know. I would have
just gonna do this. Pull up the strings and add delay to the B slot.
Wait. I'm on strings, and I'm on synth, and I'm on amount. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go back to the piano and pull up an upright and make it to where the aftertouch turns on the auto wah.
Make the aftertouch text your wife.
And tell her to bring me Chipotle. Chicken, no beans, white rice.
We didn't go over rice, but you can figure it out. I had that for lunch and dinner.
Okay, this is the auto wah. Wait, right?
Yeah.
And then no.
Yeah. Yeah, now the Ottawa's not going to do much with aftertouch unless you do aftertouch very quickly, yes.
By the way, if you're ever doing something that sounds somewhat like gritty, dirty, you have to kind of make it like.
Yeah, that face
that
is
face.
part of
To the
it.
left.
Okay, also another thing is like now I've done some stuff to it,
Yeah.
and oh
Oh,
crap,
sorry.
I don't want that anymore. So do I just go like that and then
Yeah.
go back to it? Okay.
Yeah, that'll
That
work.
clears it?
Or by pressing whichever button you're
Oh,
already
yeah,
on.
that goes to the original then. Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Nice.
All right, someone
Well,
else that actually
Alright.
does play piano.
Who's next?
You go ahead.
Yeah.
Me?
That was a
You're
good
gonna do
move.
great.
Just back up behind the screen.
do great.
I can't sit down now.
All right, pull up the organ.
No pressure with me standing here.
And I'm going to have you add pulling out some drawbars with aftertouch.
Okay.
We're going to just go complicated. Yeah, just arbitrary drawbar settings.
Until she started playing
Why
chopsticks
isn't
with the
this
buttons.
coming?
Because those are already set.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
So these ones were already at full.
Oh, so
which
that's
means you
why
can't
it's not
pull them
doing
in.
anything.
Yeah, so-
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
And now play with it.
Oh yeah, me doing this isn't really doing much.
Well, it's
It breaks-
doing the turn the Leslie on fast, yeah. And now play with the aftertouch.
Nice!
So cool.
Killing it.
Yes. Now go to a pad and add some harpsichord to it.
These are actual contextual.
Yeah, you will have to do this. This will be on the final exam.
So what I do this one?
Cornerstone, can you play a pad?
No, this is only for piano.
Well, no, that is right. You're almost there. You just need to. There is the
Oh, so I
harpsichord.
would do it
But you
here,
got to turn
though.
the section on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
gotcha. Do that and then
Yeah.
hit that, and then we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you notice, when this was off, this still lit up to show you what was going to be selected
But then it just goes off.
when it turns on.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. It sounds like a Christmas song, but like Amy Grant or something.
Yeah, you might use harpsichord around Christmas.
Absolutely, we're doing an Amy
Yeah.
Grant Christmas.
Awesome. Love Amy Grant. I grew up on
Oh,
her.
So did I.
All right. What else?
Bring it.
Let's do some real
confidence.
She's like,
Okay.
Dirty roads with delay.
Dirty roads with delay.
I'm thinking. I'm sorry.
No, do it.
no,
Dirty roads
I
with
even wrote
delay.
down
Okay,
Chad's
dirty
English.
roads. So we've got this
Uh-huh.
with this.
Well,
Oh.
you don't have to use both.
But
I
that
thought
was
that
cool.
that's what
No,
the
she
dirty
went
was.
great.
You can, but
Nice.
or you can just use slot B. It's optional. There's
okay.
multiple right
Alright,
answers.
keep going, you got it.
Many wrong answers as well.
With delay. So
Yeah, it's already on.
Oops.
am I supposed to change it to synth?
No, because
Still stayed on piano?
Yeah, because it is the piano section that you're trying to affect. There's nothing in the synth section right
Okay,
now.
there we go.
Yeah,
So
and
then
yeah, double tapping just gets you through it.
so I would just turn this up more? No, the effects more?
Yeah,
let's say?
yeah, that's the amount. Yeah.
And I can just go for it, or do I have to hit something else?
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
And really, I don't find myself using Rhodes that often in church.
Yeah.
Really?
Most of the time, it's
one of my
piano.
favorite
Well,
songs.
actually,
Oh,
But
and me
not
too.
necessarily in
I love it. The only time I think I use it is for that song. What is that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is the perfect
Yeah.
sound.
I actually
That's-
use
that's
it a
it.
lot when he's doing muted plucking, and
Oh,
I
yeah?
and I fake his sustain. Does that make sense?
Nice,
So I just
yeah,
let
yeah.
it roll.
I just thought that
roll
was
it
me.
out there. I just let it sit out there, so it's kind of
Yeah.
just becomes a sine wave anyway, and then he can kind of do more finger picky thing without it being just reverb. It's still got
Right, right.
notes to it going on.
Yeah.
As a way to just sit behind him so it doesn't totally disappear.
Yeah,
He's
that's
just
great.
playing like-
I
But that's
love
me.
the Rhodes.
That's
too.
That's a great idea.
That was actually a really good,
I like that.
like contextual example of that Forever Rain, that
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is actually a piano line. It's not a guitar line. Usually,
Yeah, I didn't realize
usually
that.
bands
It's a
will try
Rhodes
to
line.
will try to fake it with
With
a
a
guitar.
guitar,
and
yeah.
It usually doesn't sound.
That always
as good.
bothers me.
I didn't
Because
realize that.
there's so few keyboard lines out there.
Right.
I was looking at the guitar player, he's like,
He
hey.
takes it.
Hey, back up.
So if you want to I mean, right now our concept of delay is that we turn it on.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So what makes it? I'm sorry, and
No.
we'll get to.
You'll have your turn. It's obvious what delay more or less is, right? It's the sound repeating.
Right.
So,
That's exactly.
It's on
what
synth,
not-
there we go.
it's-
Okay.
this knob affects how many times it repeats. Which we talked about. And then the rate is how fast. And then the mix between the two. The tap tempo is another way to control the rate. So if the song is that speed, you can just tap it in. Yeah, and you'll see it
okay.
move there.
That's almost easier.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what you were doing.
That's
Right.
It's not you, like,
fancy.
And
doing
what's
it.
the difference between this
Now-
master click?
Master click is the overall tempo in the keyboard, which is useful when you have multiple delays going, which you could have one delay on slot A and one delay on slot B.
Okay.
Which
Now-
is what's on this, by the.
Okay.
Right. Let's go to that. So there's delay here and delay here. And they're set to different rates,
Okay.
as you can see. But those rates, this light right here is the master click light, which means it is synced to the master click, which is right here. And B is also synced to the master click. So you can use this tap tempo to affect both delays together at the same time. So you don't have to go slot A, tap, slot B, tap, and then play, you know? So
So you just sped it up
right.
for both. Okay.
And so, and both of them, the second one is up here. That high one. So this one is really nice when you have multiple delays.
Yeah.
If you just have one, you can easily just use this tap tempo.
I'm turning
But-
master click on. You do with shift.